Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. Today, I have a very special matchmaker. Her name is Ann Parnes. Ann Parnes has been helping singles find love in and around New Orleans for the last 6 years as a professional matchmaker, relationship coach, and founder of Matchmade Enola. Her education and background are in the area of law, but helping people with relationships has always been Ann's passion. Her experience as an assistant district attorney helped sharpen her intuition and ability to assess people's authenticity and character. She is thrilled to use these skills to help amazing singles in her beloved city find and keep lasting healthy relationships. Hello, Ann. How are you today?
Hi, May. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining me today on the show. I know that the show is about dating, and I specifically work with Asian women and men who want to find relationships with Asian women. But today we're going to talk about finding the great relationship, but really talking about being on the first date to escalating to getting them in a relationship, right? That's kind of like the topic at hand that we're going to talk about today. So, what are some things that you found about the singles out there, and how do you help them get from date one to getting in a relationship and be exclusive?
Yeah, so I would say that the big advice that I always have is kind of one step at a time, right? You don't want to rush anything. You don't want to build something up in your head to where before you even meet this person, you've figured out everything about them from a few conversations or even running into them in the past or things you've heard. I would just say, just be really open. Don't have any preconceived notions, or if you do, then be willing to challenge them and just kind of take it date by date, particularly those first few dates. They really are, you're pretty much getting to know a stranger or getting to know somebody in a new light. So my advice is always just take those first few dates and take the pressure off in terms of like, don't expect yourself to know more than you should know at that early stage. And then also don't worry about whether there are any expectations of you. I don't think anyone really thinks that any substantive decisions can be made as far as your compatibility goes based on the first few dates. I would say, I think a lot of us agree about this. First date, you just go out, you enjoy the moment, and you ask yourself, did I have enough fun? Was there enough there to see them one more time? Nothing more than that. And then second date, same thing. Did I enjoy myself? Did I find them interesting, appealing in some way to where I want to see them one more time? And then third date, I'm kind of like, well, at that point, if you have no desire to kiss them, right? To me, that's kind of tells you plenty. But if you do, then that's wonderful. But to me, it's like start slow. Don't have these great expectations. And also, if you do have this mind-blowing chemistry, right? You don't even need the 3 dates, right? First date you meet, and you're like, wow, I can't believe how I feel about this person. That's awesome. Enjoy it, but slow down in terms of like, it doesn't mean that that's your person. It doesn't mean it's not your person. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you have a lot of great chemistry. So just kind of take a deep breath, enjoy where you are, keep an open mind, and one step at a time, at least in those initial stages. I don't want to talk too much at once.
So, how do you get people to give them a second date and potentially a third date? Because I find that there's so many single people on these apps, and when they work with the matchmaker, they just think, oh, you're just going to queue up the women for me. So next, next, next. Like, how do you tell them to, hey, let's look at this one person and figure out, do you want a second date with them? Like, how do you convince them to give them a chance?
Yeah, I think we all run into that challenge, right? Particularly with men, as we know, they like to feel immediate chemistry. So I have not had much luck. A couple times I have had the luck, and it has actually turned out really well when I have, in having a man's, even if they didn't feel immediate chemistry, and having them give it another chance. Just because I think sometimes it's happened to them in the past so that they know that they can't, or that maybe they've heard of it happening for someone. So some of them are a little bit more open-minded, but they want to feel the immediate chemistry. And I get that, it's kind of hard to push through that for some people if you don't feel it, and you may have some notion that you don't want to give up on of, I need to feel it. Well, there's only so much we can do about that. And you are the best person to tell you what you need. But in terms of next, it's like, we're not magicians. As much as we would all love to take out that magic wand and say, oh, you said you wanted all of these qualities. Well, here, bam, here she is. Humans don't work that way, right? We're not going to be able to find you everything you want. And that's why I think most of us will get into the deep parts, right? The things that you're like, these are non-negotiables, these are must-haves, this is how I want to feel with a person. Those are the real things that we focus on. And so when we present you with a match, and when you start to get to know someone, remember, what are you in here for? Are you in here to find arm candy? Or are you really in here to find a partner? And so that's not something that's going to be immediately available. Sometimes you see things where it makes it immediately known that that's not going to be the case. And, if you see that, if you see a big red flag, or if you see something that, like, I just can't live with that, right? Then don't. But if everything else is going well, it doesn't mean you have to stop and only see that person, right? I think that's also a big difference between dating and being in a relationship. But maybe they don't think that they're missing out on something, because we can continue to recruit and scout, and you can continue, if you're doing it yourself, of course, to date. But I think trying to challenge that mindset of what's behind door number 2, what's behind door number 3, that's not going to do you any favors, because if you meet somebody and you're having a good time and it's progressing and you're feeling good, well, at some point you're just going to have to see where that goes, even if it means missing out on something else, because there's not going to be perfection.
Yeah, I find that if a man wants to meet a woman again and she's kind of on the fence about seeing him again, it's almost like I need to convince my male clients to be like, well, give her an offer she can't refuse. Like, if it's that Italian restaurant you guys talked about on the date, or she loves bowling, or she loves certain type of cuisine, then ask her out and make it easy for her to meet you on the date so she doesn't say no. And then hopefully you can still try to win her over on the second date. I mean, do you suggest men do that? Like, lure her in for an offer she can't refuse, so then she'll say yes to a second date?
I don't have that much experience, I would say, with that. I mean, I think it's more luring her in with, the possibility of having fun, and also I think of taking that pressure off. I know, again, with some women, they're like, well, if I go out with him again, he might think that I want to make out, and I don't know if I feel that, right? So I've had the most success when I've been able to clear it up for them, and even say something to my client like, look, they're just not sure, and they don't need to be, where they feel safe saying, what do I have to lose here? Like you said, maybe it's a nice dinner or whatever, with no expectations, just kind of, let's go out, enjoy each other, and see where that goes without any kind of, expectations or perceived expectations, even if they don't exist. I've had more luck with that than trying the other, but maybe I should give that a go.
So is that kind of a guide where you tell people, hey, if you are open to kissing him or her on the third date, that means you like him or her? Is that kind of the feeling you tell people to anticipate or watch out for? Like, if you want to kiss him on the third date, it means you actually like him.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think there are any hard or fast rules in any of it, right? I think men even say in the first, 10, 20 minutes, they know everything they need to know. I don't believe that. But anyway, I do think that as a general rule, if you've now gone out and seen this person maybe in a different light, and seen them on a number of occasions where if those nerves were there initially, I mean, they'll be there, but if you've had an opportunity to show different sides of yourselves and you still don't feel that attraction, well, for some people, I think I had one client who pushed it even further. I didn't say anything about that, but she decided to, and she said it was like at one moment she saw him in a different light and it all clicked, and she felt this overwhelming attraction to him, which even surprised me. Unfortunately, it was a little too late on his end, but it can happen. But I think that that's a lot to push yourself to do, right? It's kind of like trying a new food. Okay, try it and see what you think. Try it. At some point you're like, I don't want that soup.
Right.
I don't want to drink that soup, and that's totally fine, right?
So what other tips do you tell your clients on how to get from date 1 or 2 to 3 to them being in a relationship? Like what else would you guide them on?
Yeah, I think that, dating is wonderful, and it just looks different than a relationship in terms of people can date for lots of different reasons. There are some people who just want to spend time and get to know people and date, and that's wonderful. And there are others who are using dating as a step in getting to the next phase. And, people who are a little bit more intentional and do want to find the right partner for them. And so I would say if things are going really well and you're just exploring each other and you're getting to know each other, but you're kind of ready to take it to the next level where you're feeling a little safer about sharing more intimate things about yourself. For some people, physical intimacy can come with dating. With others, physical intimacy comes with a relationship. But I think, at that point, you want it to become clear for both of you that you're on the same page, that you are intentional, that though you're not ready to commit to each other, you are ready to commit to getting to know where this could go. You're open to it. You're in a good space where life will never be perfect, but you are in a space to where you're open to seeing what happens and seeing what you can build together. There shouldn't be questions about, well, should I be dating other people? Can he be? That's all clear. You've communicated the fact that, okay, this is going really well. Let's see where this goes. It's just going to be us. We're not going to see other people. Or if you have a non-monogamous, that's fine. You are setting your own boundaries, but they are mutual. They're communicated. You don't have to feel awkward about, this is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend. It's just kind of, it creates a safe space where you can feel more comfortable getting closer, getting more intimate, approaching challenges together, right? I think that's the next phase. And then after that, I think it's really getting to the place of more real life situations, not just like the honeymoon, let's go do this tonight, let's go travel here for the weekend. It's more like conflicts, right? Conflict is always going to come up for everybody. So, that would be the next phase, is kind of getting to not where everything isn't so rosy and perfect, but you're actually having real life scenarios where your values might differ, your lifestyle preferences might differ, all of those, encountering those and kind of just seeing what works and what doesn't, what's worth it to sacrifice, what is a boundary you shouldn't and can't push back on. So, that's kind of the next level. But I would say that the biggest piece is intimacy and how you feel safe kind of getting deeper and deeper and making sure that is mutual and communicated.
You think back to when you were dating and you just felt like you're not always looking at your phone waiting for the text to come through. You're not always waiting for him to call you. Like, how do we get to that point where you feel comfortable in the relationship that you're not always waiting for the next text or waiting for the next phone call? I just felt like when I met my husband, it was so easy. Like, I didn't feel like he was playing any games. Like, he would call all the time and I would call him, and I didn't have those frustrations with dating that I did with the other guys I've dated. So is that something that normally just comes naturally if two people like each other, that they're not waiting for the next text message to come through? Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think that we've all kind of heard this expression of, if he likes you or she likes you, if he likes you, he will find a way. If he doesn't, he'll find an excuse. Right. And so I think both people, we're wired for connection. So if the connection is there, if the desire is there, even if there are fears and other things going on, but I mean, you do want someone who's going to be consistent. As far as like being anxious and looking at your phone and wondering, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the different attachment styles. And sometimes that is an issue within oneself as much as it is with the relationship. Some people, even if they are getting that consistency, still might feel insecure, right? Like, when am I ever going to feel secure in this? And that can be a function of the communication in the relationship itself that can be worked through. And, by slowly, as you get more comfortable, sort of acknowledging some of those insecurities, not, some probably should be kept to yourself or your therapist or your best friend, but, in terms of expectations and boundaries and communicating those and just making sure that those are being met and respected. And then if the issue is really wholly within oneself or partially within oneself and sort of healing those attachment styles, that's certainly something that somebody could work on. Also read the book, work with a therapist, because sometimes, that's just the way you're wired based on your previous or your past experiences.
So when does a guy usually ask a woman to become exclusive? Like, what are some of the things in your experience that makes him feel like, you know what, she's worth being in an exclusive relationship with?
I would say it's when they feel comfortable, honestly, when they feel like this is somebody who brings out the best in them. This is somebody who lights them up, who they can't wait to see, who they enjoy being with, who they feel good around and natural around and don't have to put on a time. I mean, we all put on sort of our best foot forward, good impressions. You want to keep all of that. But I do think men, just like women, just want somebody who can accept them and appreciate them. And when they find that, it's not so easy for men or women. So I do think when you find something that feels special, it's not as much of a sacrifice to give up the rest, because that is rare and it's special and it feels like it's worth investing in and sacrificing for people who are really authentically seeking a partner.
Do you feel that when a single asks themselves, I don't know if he likes me. Does he like me? I don't know if we're exclusive. I don't know how he feels. Like, do you feel like if someone's asking those questions about their relationship, that they are not exclusive, that he doesn't like her as much as he thinks or she thinks, if she's having these questions?
No, again, I mean, I think a lot of us are wired to be just a little bit insecure. And so just because we think those thoughts doesn't mean anything. Of course, if somebody's giving you clear signs that they're just not that into you and you're thinking that, well, that's a different situation. If their actions would show pretty objectively that they're not into you, they're not asking you out, they're not calling you, they're not texting you, they're not thinking of you or showing you that you are special to them, then you probably aren't. Or if you are, and if they can't show it to you, well, then who needs that anyway? And they're not worth spinning your wheels over, right? Like sometimes that tough nut to crack, just there's nothing in there to crack. So, if that's what they're reacting to is a lack of, showing that they care, then absolutely it is very significant and relevant, and listen to that. The other end of that is if there's just a little bit of insecurity on both ends, because we can't expect anyone to read our minds. We can't read, just like these women don't know what he's thinking. He doesn't know what she's thinking, right? Nobody is a mind reader here. And so that's why communication really is the best way to address that. I mean, just ask, just talk about it. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? People think that they're like seem desperate or needy. That's not the case at all. You have a set of expectations, you have a set of boundaries, and that's confidence, right? When you can stay true to those and be like, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, but at this point, like, I don't want to invest my Saturday nights if, Friday nights you feel like you want to explore your other options or whatever. How do you feel about us? What do you, how do you feel about dating other people? There's nothing wrong with asking those questions, and there's nothing wrong with having an opinion. Sometimes your opinions are going to clash, but you need to know that, and bearing things under the rug is never the right answer. So there's certainly different ways of communicating. You don't want to sound needy, but you can certainly be confident, assert your boundaries, and get the answers that you want, and then make that decision for yourself. It's actually really empowering, because once you know, then you can decide, does this work for me or does it not? If somebody's not ready to do that, well, then you have the choice of, okay, I'm going to continue to see other people then, and kind of give it a little bit more time and see where it goes, and see if that changes for either one of us. Or, you know what, if at this point he doesn't know, then I don't want to invest more time. And either one is fine as long as it feels right for you. But having the answers, in my opinion, is always the best way to go.
Yeah, I feel like probably in my 20s, I wasn't a very good communicator in the dating realm. But as you get older, you just have to express your needs and your wants and to talk about it. Because if he knows that you like him, he'll be like, oh, okay, I now feel good that I could reciprocate my feelings to her because I know she likes me, so I can let her know I like her back. It's kind of like no one would know that you like him if you don't tell him. And it's okay to express your thoughts. And at least if he doesn't like you back that way or want to be exclusive in a relationship, at least you know now and you're not wasting your time, right? I mean, I feel like it's good to get to the answers sooner and to talk about things. And there's nothing wrong with over communicating in a relationship. I just feel like people just want to know where they stand, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Of course, there's probably a fine line between rushing things and just kind of feeling like you have to have a timeline. You know, we've been together 3 months, we've been together. I don't think there's ever any set timeline, but I think that having those conversations, asking open-ended questions, really getting curious about where they are, what they want, without sort of putting the pressure on, but just from a sense of understanding, so that you can make your decisions. I would say, yeah, there's no harm in communicating. It just, then you have a choice and then you know, which is better than guessing, assuming, playing games, and all of the things that really sabotage relationships.
So, what would you say, Anne, that your specialty is when you help clients with the date coaching? What is an area that you're passionate about?
I think it's sort of owning their own authenticity and what makes them special, and not trying to be something different in a relationship, and just really paying attention to how they feel, how someone makes them feel. You know, what are the qualities that they want somebody to bring out in them, and how is that lining up? What are their needs? You know, are they being true to them? What are the things that they maybe could grow in? Sort of, what are their blind spots? What are the things that they could work on that would make their relationships better? What are the changes they could make that would make them, you know, getting closer to where they want to be in their relationships? Because we can never control the other, but we can control ourselves. And we've all got something that can use some improvement. We've all got wonderful things. We've all got areas for improvement. So I think that just kind of honoring both is important.
What are some tools that you help them to explore that area? Like, what are some things that might be something that can help them or help the audience?
Yeah, I think that we all know journaling is what you're supposed to do. I know that, you know that, we all know that. How many of us actually do it? Probably not that many, as we should. But I think at least if you can sort of, just like we train ourselves to work out, train our brains to think in a certain way. So whether it's carving out time, you know, in your routine, whatever works for you, first thing in the morning, later in the afternoon, before you go to sleep, of just focusing on the things that you are grateful for, the things that are really good in your life, the things that you really like about yourself, that you want someone to recognize in you. If you can recognize them in yourself, then you'll be able to attract the people who can recognize them in you, rather than feeling like, oh gosh, did you see the way he looked at me when I did whatever it is that you love to do normally, and feeling like you have to change that. Because I think that there's compromise, and then I think there's sacrifice. And I think if we want to be happy, we should be in a place where we can compromise, but not sacrifice those fundamental parts of ourselves. So I think you just really have to focus on knowing yourself, and again, celebrating all the good things about you, and just taking that mental note, taking even a mental note in your day when you're feeling really good. You're like, okay, but what did I just do that made me feel really good? You know, what is that about? And appreciating that about yourself. So focusing on the positive, where we focus is what we'll find, right?
I agree. I agree. So, do you predominantly work with men or women?
Both. I predominantly work with men in the matchmaking realm, but you know, but 75% of my clients are male. But in the coaching, I would say I probably work with more women in that.
So, what would you say that 5 things that your male matchmaking clients are looking for in a woman?
You know, one of the more surprising ones that I hear repeatedly, I'm not sure if you have the same experience, May, is they want someone who challenges them. And, you know, at first I was like, well, what does that exactly mean? You know, is it whining? Because we all do that, right? Like, I'm kidding. But I think that what I understand is they do want somebody who keeps them to their higher, you know, acting as their best selves, and somebody who appreciates that, who doesn't let them come down to who keeps them on their toes, really, and who's worth it for them and who gives them that. And if you're giving them your best, they're going to give you their best. And so I think that that's what they're looking for. I also feel like they are looking for real connection. It's not just about sex. Certainly the physical and the sexual and, that part of the intimacy is important. But I do find that oftentimes women discount how much men get from just physical closeness. What else? That's two. They always want somebody beautiful. There's, somebody they find attractive, and that varies greatly. But of course, we hear they want attraction, and that's great, and we totally get that. What else? They want somebody who is and this varies too, but I think stability, right? I think that they want somebody who can disagree and have those conflicts, but it is not going to fly off the handle every time there is that disagreement. I think most people do want to feel safe and stable. So not just men, but you hear a lot of crazy women, which drives me crazy because for many reasons. But anyway, I do hear a lot of men who want somebody who is more centered and stable. And believe it or not, I guess I'm lucky in that a lot of my male clients have had some therapy or have had some coaching or whatever it is that makes them a little bit more emotionally intelligent. And they're looking for the same. They do want somebody who can connect on a deep level, who is vulnerable, who is not super jaded, and is just loving and open and soft and warm. I think those are the qualities.
How can you tell if someone's super jaded when it comes to dating? Like, what are some things that she might say or act or do?
I think she'll be negative, right? You'll hear about how awful her ex was, how awful dating has been, how terrible her relationships are with her coworkers, how horrible it is to go home for holidays can be rough on anyone. I shouldn't say that, but it's just what they're going to be bringing up. All men are this, a lot of sweeping negative generalizations. Somebody who's closed body language, right? Not leaning in, not touching, just very guarded, kind of scared of the warmth and the openness that it would take. What else? Yeah, I just think more frigid.
So if a woman who's listening who does complain about her coworkers, complains about her kids, complains about her neighbors, I don't know, just complains about things, how would you help her turn around her mindset and the way she communicates her thoughts to men that she dates?
Yeah, I think that if something bothers you that much, either change your mindset or change something about it. So just to get more empowered, certain things you can't control, like perhaps your coworkers, but you can learn how to make that situation better. Other things that are within your control, I think instead of blaming and a victim mindset, if you embrace those and realize how much control you have to fix them, then I would always encourage people to try and improve things that they're not happy with in their lives. But putting that aside, even if you can't do that, which again, I'm all about authenticity. So I don't want to tell her to be like, everything's wonderful, everything's sunny, but I would say definitely, watch your tone. Nobody likes to be around somebody who's complaining all the time. It's great to have a partner you can lean on and complain if you had a rough day or something's going wrong. It's nice to have a shoulder like that. But people want to be uplifted when they're in your company, particularly at first. So if you're constantly complaining, that can be draining, I think, for someone. Maybe that's my opinion, at least.
So if someone is constantly grumpy or a complainer, and if there's a woman out there listening and she even thinks, yeah, I am kind of negative, like that is like the best thing to do is just trying to focus on not being a complainer, right? Like you just need to catch yourself when you find yourself complaining about the parking lot and you can't find parking, or that cashier was just a dummy, or like you can tell if you're a negative person. And if you complain a lot, you're a negative person. You need to change that. Like no female friends even want a platonic relationship with you if you're a complainer, let alone a male gentleman who's going to date you. So those are some things that you just have to look within yourself to see if you fall into that category. If you know you're a negative Nancy and people don't want to be around you, and you need to change that. I mean, I know some people like that. And, it's kind of like dating, right? Like you're dating to find a potential romantic relationship, but you're also making new girlfriends to see if you can become platonic friends and develop friendships with people. That's the same thing. If you're out making friends with another woman and you find that that person doesn't want to call you back and invite you to lunch or a walk or do anything with you anymore, those are signs that you're not a pleasant person to be around. So, if you have trouble making friends, you might want to look at that and really focus on changing that part of your personality and just be more in tuned with that. Yeah. Because there are women that I interview for in my database that are complaining about men and women and about life. And you're like, whoa, I just met you. Like, if you're just being so honest with me as a matchmaker, I can't imagine what you're like on a date. Like, men don't want to be around that because they have options, right? Tons of options out there.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And hopefully they're hearing you and recognizing themselves, and they're going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's the fun part, right? It's like, oh, shoot, there's something you can literally change overnight. And it could be a huge, huge shift in how you view others and how others view you. And it could be a huge shift in your dating life. I mean, that's one little thing. It doesn't cost you anything just to be nicer to people and around people.
And you'll be happier, right? I mean, I think it's like, I think I remember seeing a cartoon, and it's two people walking side by side, and one of them is looking down at the cracks in the sidewalk, and the other is looking up at, the beautiful blue sky and the trees. And it's just like, look around and find the good, right? Even if you're not wired naturally to see it, you might want to be looking down at that crack, but like, pick your head up and look around and find the things that are beautiful and positive. And eventually, I really do think that your perception will change, and you'll be happier and you'll be a better partner. Because when we are picking someone, we're finding someone who we're going to be spending so much time with, right? And sharing these experiences with. And I mean, who wants to do that with somebody who's going to be pointing out the bad? There's enough hard things in life where I think you would rather have somebody who's going to be there to help lift you and make life more fun and positive and beautiful rather than gloomy.
Right, right. So, Anne, how long have you lived in New Orleans?
Most of my life. I think we immigrated when I was 3, and then I went to law school, lived in DC for 9. So all but 12 years of my life, and I'm not going to do the math for you on that, give away my age, but a long time.
Do people in New Orleans, the single men and women, do they complain about the single lifestyle in New Orleans? Like, how does it differ than, LA or DC or Chicago? What do you think the singles are like in New Orleans, and how do they differ with singles around the US?
Yeah, if I didn't go to the conferences and collaborate with other matchmakers, I would think that, oh gosh, New Orleans has the worst signals. There are no good guys out there. We're so unique in this. But after talking to lots of matchmakers, we all hear the same thing. Everybody complains about how difficult it is to be single in whatever city they live in. I've heard women in Denver complain, and we call that menverse. So I really feel like in Seattle, same thing. It really is, again, about perception. And if you're having a hard time and a bad experience, then that's how you're going to, see the world. And it's also, you're going to want to prove yourself right, is how I put it. And so you're just going to keep finding things that reinforce that belief. But I think that we have the most interesting people in the country in New Orleans. Lots of them are married for sure, but I keep meeting more and more amazing single people. So I know they're out there. I've met plenty of them myself. I know when you get on the dating apps, which I have done for people and with people, we definitely have a lot of like fish pics and hunting things and all of that stuff, right? We are still in the South. But we have some really cool people who were born and raised here their whole lives. Then we have others who've moved in and really, embraced the city. So I think it's a great population. Others may disagree.
Do the native New Orleans singles want to date other people who are born and raised in New Orleans, or does it matter? Like they're open to dating people who just move in to New Orleans?
Yeah, I have found that they are very open, and that's not saying all of them are. I'm sure that there are certain segments of our population who really want to kind of keep that the traditions going. But most of my clients, most people who I know, actually really welcome transplants because it's a kind of big small city in terms of everybody knows each other, or we think we do. And so they have this notion that they already know everyone from here, and they really want someone who's not from here because they're going to be different. But the truth is we have lots of great people in New Orleans who are all very, very different.
So would you recommend that somebody who complains about dating in their city just expand their geographic location? Like if they're only dating within 50 miles, do you suggest, well, maybe you should date within 100 miles if you're complaining about the people that you're meeting close by?
Yeah, sure. I think that it depends on you and your lifestyle. So if you have some flexibility in your schedule to drive more or travel more, or can tolerate long distance, well, anytime that we take off a filter or expand a filter, we get more candidates in the pool. So sure, if you want to see what else is out there, and if you are open to just kind of, it doesn't have to be, you have to see each other 3 nights during the week, every week, or whatever. If you're flexible and your schedule allows, then sure, why not kind of expand to whatever you can accommodate.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, can you give us any other dating tips for people dating in their own city, and any specific dating tips for men or women out there?
Sure, I would say just take the pressure off and have fun. Remember, this is really supposed to be a fun process. So if you go into it without the pressure of, oh gosh, I need to meet somebody, and I need to stop wasting time, and just kind of in that mindset of, I've had terrible experiences, I need to know right now. I think that if you let go of that and just treat it as, people are really interesting, you can learn something from anybody, and you should. And you don't have to commit to a big, long 3-course dinner. You can go meet somebody for whatever, a walk, a coffee, a cocktail. Take the pressure off, enjoy just that moment, be in that moment, feel that connection, whatever it is. Maybe think about 3 positive things instead of things you don't like about somebody that you can walk away with, just so that you don't feel like it was a total waste of your time, and that you had some enjoyment of it. Take the pressure off, keep being intentional, keep looking, but just stay positive and keep at it.
Do you suggest that men go out for happy hour drinks for dates versus a full-on dinner if they wanted to, watch for their budget?
Definitely, not just that. I mean, some people don't feel comfortable sitting down and having a dinner together. You might feel like there's nothing to talk about after 30 minutes. So I just think that's way too much pressure. I think, some people prefer that, and that's wonderful. But I think happy hour, a place where you might be able to order at least something for the table, whatever it is, fries, nuts, small plates of some sort, and a cocktail, no more than 2, is a great low pressure start to a date, to meeting somebody.
Don't you think if someone can't talk to somebody for an hour or 45 minutes or hour and a half, that's a problem? Like, they probably shouldn't be dating if they can't hold a conversation with somebody, anybody, random person, a stranger, even a woman, same sex person, or another guy or something. Like, don't you feel like if someone's dating, they should be able to have a decent conversation with anybody for like an hour?
Yes, within, if assuming they're on like the not on a spectrum or something, our clients, we are vetting for that, right? So I think you probably agree that anyone I introduce a client to, absolutely, I think there's going to be enough there to talk for an hour and a half, no problem.
Right.
If you're on a dating app, you really don't know who's on the other end of that. So you can't put it all on yourself, right? Like, you might have somebody who is just has no social skills, and you're, it's like pulling teeth. So I can see how in that case, if they're meeting a complete stranger off the internet, you might want to protect that time a little bit more, because that person might not have a thing to say. So, but yeah, if you're working with a matchmaker, you should be able to have an hour and a half conversation and a nice experience.
But if they're meeting someone on an app, do you suggest that they talk on the phone first or do a Zoom call first, or just go out and meet? If they're both in the city and they both live near each other, just go for it. You can just get to know somebody in 45 minutes or an hour. What do you suggest? That they do a 0 date first, like a phone call or a Zoom call, or they just throw the dice and meet in person?
Yeah, I feel like it's just depends on the person and the situation. Some of my older clients, I do think that they should talk on the phone first. Some of them, because it's like a whole ordeal for them to get to this 45-minute coffee, right? But yeah, for most for most people, what's the big deal? If you are chatting back and forth for a couple of days and there seems to be enough there, and you can fit it in your schedule to meet for coffee or drink, then I think that you can't really replace that in-person connection and chemistry with either Zoom or call. So they'll tell you something for sure. Some people might be more comfortable on the phone. Some people might be less. So it's really hard to say, but nothing beats in person. And I have certain clients who like voice is super important. So it was one particular woman. So for her, I did say, look, if you already know that this guy could be absolutely perfect, but if he has the wrong voice for you, it's off. I'm like, well, then I guess that's really easy to screen for, hop on a call. But for most people, if that's not an issue, then yeah, just go for it if you can. But if it's too high stakes, then you can always take it down to Zoom or a call if people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Anne, thank you so much. Can you just tell the audience quickly how they would find you? Of course, I would also enter your information in the show notes, but just give me a brief intro to your business.
Thank you, May. This is so fun to be here with you. They are welcome to email me at Ann, ANN, no E, at matchnola.com with any questions or any way I can help.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. And ladies, if you're out there looking for a great guy, I would love to hear from you. Please fill out a profile with me so I can find you. Go to twoasianmatchmakers.com and I'd be happy to have your information in case there's a great guy looking for you. I can set you up. So thank you. Bye, Anne.
I may. Thank you.